Been the perfect storm with supply chain challenges, cost increases in food, and increase in need.
Polling says the organization buys as much local produce, meat, and dairy as it can, but faces cost limitations. She welcomes the potential federal help.
We're thinking about people in need and food banks' ability to meet that need, but we're also thinking about our local agricultural partners.
The USDA says historically underserved producers will be prioritized under the new program. Rudy Arredondo is with the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers Trade Association. He says the small producers his organization represents have been hit disproportionately hard by the pandemic and its economic impacts.
Certainly our community suffered quite a bit because we have always been at the tail end of receiving any kind of benefits. We appreciate the fact that we finally have been included in that.
Arredondo says the program will provide an immediate financial boost, but longer-term rural infrastructure investments are needed to keep local food systems viable. I'm Savannah Marr for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
ServPro of Jacksonville South, Arlington, Jacksonville East, and Jacksonville West Side, Orange Park. Whether it's water, mold, or fire damage, will help you restore your home or business. ServPro of Jacksonville South, Arlington, Jacksonville East, and Jacksonville West Side, Orange Park. Available 24/7, 721-2230.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. When people are hurt through no fault of their own, answering who, what, when, where, why, and how is critical to proving the truth. More at terrellhogan.com.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect with Melissa Ross. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
On the next Radio Lab,
one of, if not the biggest butterfly poaching and smuggling rings in American history.
One man's journey to save a tiny little butterfly.
Is the state moving fast enough to dole out rental assistance to people at risk of eviction? I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, housing at the holidays. We'll tell you what resources are available right now to keep a roof over your head if you need help. That's ahead, then later.
Fraudsters are getting smarter, more creative, and even more convincing. So relying on typical protections offered by any financial institution is a good basic approach to fraud prevention.
Protecting yourself from holiday scams when you're out shopping. Plus, calls to fire Urban Meyer grow louder. That and more, all ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The exact death toll still isn't known from Friday night's tornadoes that crossed multiple states in the South and Midwest. Dozens of people were killed. The tornadoes were the deadliest in Kentucky. NPR's Brian Mann is in Dawson Springs, a Kentucky community of about 2,500 people. He says parts of it were wiped out.
It was just scoured rubble, and spread throughout were people just going through the debris, trying to find anything that they could salvage under this blue sky, a cold wind blowing. It was just the harshest landscape.
NPR's Brian Mann reporting. The House panel investigating the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol is meeting today. Members will consider a contempt referral for former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. NPR's Claudia Grisales reports Meadows cut off cooperation with the panel and filed a lawsuit against them.
Mark Meadows received one of the first subpoenas issued by the House committee in September, and President Biden waived executive privilege claims in Meadows' case, allowing him to share documents and details of conversations with the committee. However, Meadows, through his attorney, argued he was following a directive from former President Trump not to cooperate. With the committee threatening action against him, Meadows recently shifted gears, sharing thousands of private emails with the panel and making plans to appear for testimony. But in the latest reversal, Meadows said he would stop cooperating, triggering the panel's plans to refer him for criminal contempt of Congress. Claudia Grisales, NPR News, Washington.
Meanwhile, House lawmakers released a report Sunday night suggesting that Meadows assisted with efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The report alleges he sent text messages to an organizer of the pro-Trump rally held before the insurrection, and that he reportedly promised the National Guard would help, quote, pro-Trump people. A sailor accused of setting the fire that destroyed the USS Bonhomme Richard in July 2020 will be in court today for the first time. From member station KPBS, Steve Walsh reports that this week's hearings for the sailor will determine if naval authorities will move ahead with a court-martial.
Seaman apprentice Ryan Sawyer Mays is accused of arson and hazarding a vessel in the fire that burned for more than 4 days along the San Diego waterfront. The Navy paints Mays as a disgruntled sailor upset for failing to qualify as a SEAL. Outside legal analyst Tony O'Neill says there are still challenges to proving Mays started the fire.
I think the fact that people were wearing masks, and of course they're military, so they're wearing uniforms as well, they're indistinguishable. I think all of those are going to be really high hurdles for the government.
Mays could decide to plead guilty to a lesser charge. The Navy estimates losing the USS Bonhomme Richard cost $4 billion. For NPR News, I'm Steve Walsh.
This is NPR News.
And your time now, 4 minutes after 9. This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. A list of 76 projects for the state's first ever flooding resiliency plan has been released by Governor Ron DeSantis. Steve Newborn reports it's aimed at stemming the inevitable rise of seas and flooding.
The governor is asking state lawmakers to spend $270 million in the next 3 years to protect waterways, coastlines, and reefs. That money would be an incentive for local governments willing to match the funding for nearly $500 million worth of investments. Paul Owens is president of the smart growth advocacy group 1,000 Friends of Florida. He says it isn't nearly enough to address requests already made to the Department of Environmental Protection.
To give you an idea of the demand for this funding, DEP has received $2.3 billion worth of proposals for this year's $500 million allotment.
About 90% of the projects are in South Florida. I'm Steve Newborn in Tampa.
Here in Jacksonville, the implosion of the Berkman 2 on Bay Street downtown has been scrapped once again. Our partner News4Jax reports that due to scheduling, the planned implosion for the eyesore building on December 20th has been pushed to January 8th. It's 63 degrees in Arlington. We have an overcast sky, some sun this afternoon with a high near 70 degrees. We'll have a light north wind today, patchy fog overnight, and temperatures in the upper 50s, low 70s on Tuesday.
Word for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Easy Cater, committed to helping companies solve food for work, from sales meetings to daily employee lunches, with online ordering and 24/7 support. Corporate food solutions at easycater.com.
Is the state moving money fast enough to protect people at risk of eviction? Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. And just ahead this Monday morning, we're going to tell you how you can access emergency rental assistance this holiday season. Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Then later, calls to fire Meyer grow louder as the Jaguars lose yet again. That's later on. But first this hour, housing at the holidays. Recent reports show hundreds of millions in rental assistance funds to Florida residents has apparently been going unspent. Our Florida, the state-run program formed to distribute federal rescue funds, had only spent about 24% of the $870 million in federal pandemic rental assistance it had been granted by the end of September. Now, the state has come under criticism for this. They say they are working to get the funds out. At the same time, Jacksonville area legal aid was recently granted $2.4 million from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to support legal assistance for low-income tenants fighting eviction. Lots of people out there in this situation.
Jim Kowalski is president and CEO of Jacksonville Area Legal Aid, and he's on the line. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Melissa. Thanks for having me on.
And housing at the holidays, that's what we're looking at this morning. What are your questions about getting rental assistance? What are your questions about how the state is doling out federal funds intended to keep people housed, but not all of it is getting where it needs to go? Give us a call, 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. So, Jim, I know that you've been the lucky recipient of a lot of money from HUD. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, can you set the table for us a little bit? Explain how serious is the situation in our area and in Florida now when it comes to people at risk of eviction?
So, generally, the local ERAP funds, right, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program funds, that Duval and Clay and Nassau, St. John's, all the surrounding counties have been pushing out, have been holding off what a lot of analysts expected was a tidal wave of evictions, right? We knew generally the amount of people who were behind. We know that Florida has the harshest one-sided eviction statutes in the country. And so there was a great deal of fear, I think, on the part of a lot of folks as the last moratorium expired, the last of the moratoriums expired. But the local ERAP programs, Duval's, once it restarted with Civitas, and the other counties have all done, I think, a pretty good job at getting that money out locally. As you mentioned, there's currently an issue with whether the state ERAP program, or Florida.com, run by DCF, is pushing out enough of that money. And we hope that if Treasury claws it back, they will at least redistribute it locally as opposed to taking it back to Washington and redistribute it to the county ERAP programs, like I said, who are all doing a pretty good job of pushing that money out and holding off the tidal wave so far.
Holding off at what could be a tidal wave. Wow. Yeah, we saw Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried criticizing Governor Ron DeSantis. Of course, she is challenging him, accusing the state of sitting on this money, hundreds of millions of dollars, that could keep people in their homes. The state says it plans to dole out all of this money by January. Can you explain how that process might work and how that's going to help people who are sitting in their apartments right now worrying if they're going to be out on the street because they just can't afford to pay their rent right now for whatever reason?
Sure. So the Our Florida program and the local ERAP programs are all supposed to be following roughly the same rules, right? They're substantially relaxed from how they were at the beginning. You would go to that program, Our Florida, or in Jacksonville through COJ.net, the local ERAP program that's being run by Civitas, and you would simply apply. You have to show a risk of experiencing homelessness. You have to show a reduction in household income. It's a fairly simple process now, what's called self-attestation, where you fill out the forms. The program will then contact your landlord. Civitas locally is doing a very good job of working with the local landlords. And then the check is written to the landlord, although there is an option for the check to be written to the tenant if the landlord isn't cooperating and the tenant then is using that probably for first and last month's rent at their next living quarters.
So, Jim, unemployment's down. People are getting back to work. All of this money was set up to help people in the earlier months of the pandemic when everything shut down and people were desperate and terrified. Now that the economy is getting going again, can you explain, in our area especially, what's the picture like out there? How many people are still in need of this kind of rental assistance? What kinds of cases and stories are you dealing with at Jacksonville Area Legal Aid?
So what happened in that long middle section of the downturn is the landlords weren't getting paid, right? And that's the critical piece, is to make the landlords, particularly the small landlords who may be a mom and pop landlord, right? They own their house and maybe one or two other rental housing structures. It's to make them whole And the newest ERAP, what's called ERAP 2, not only allows that back rent, but also 2 months or more. I think it's up to 4 months. Locally, it's 2 months of front rent, forward-facing rent. And so you have those mom-and-pop landlords who were responsible for paying their mortgages, but weren't getting money in. That's what this is really designed to help, is to fill that gap of the back payment. What we're seeing generally is folks still using our online app, FloridaEvictionHelp.org, by the thousands. It's well into the 5,000 number statewide who have used that application to build their eviction filing in court. And then we're seeing a small number, but a troubling number, of cases being filed where landlords took ERAP money and still filed and proceeded with the eviction. And so we're going in and kind of targeting those individually. And that hopefully we can keep ahead of.
549-2937. We want to hear from you if you're a tenant. We want to hear from you if you're a landlord. So, Jim, then tell us about this grant you received from HUD, more than $2 million. And how is that going to help you at Legal Aid, help people out there?
Sure. Well, it's not just us. It's shared among 5 other legal aids around the state: Florida Legal Services, Gulf Coast, which is in the Gulf Coast, Legal Aid of Palm Beach, which is in Palm Beach, Legal Aid of Broward, and then Northwest Florida Legal Aid, which is up in Pensacola. We're running the grant, but we're implementing a program that ties together both FloridaEvictionHelp.org, the form builder at the front end, navigators, and negotiating those filed eviction cases, right? Florida requires an extremely quick turnaround by the tenant once the case has been filed. And then at the back end, what we in Gulf Coast have piloted, which are sealing and expungement of the filed eviction case, right? If it's a negotiated settlement, the court case really harms the tenant going forward, even though it may have been wrongly filed in the first place, or even though it was settled. And so we're hoping to use that at the back end and tie that kind of stream of assistance together. But as you've talked about, and obviously as I mentioned, the central piece of this is the ERAP money that we can use to negotiate these cases away. We had a number of lawyers reach out to us. The ABA did a shout out for private lawyers to help with settling and negotiating eviction cases. Unfortunately, we couldn't use them in Duval because at the time Jacksonville's ERAP program was dormant. It was one of 2 that were dormant in the state. It's now restarted. We have this HUD funding to develop this program. And certainly we hope that the state ERAP funds stay in Florida along with the county ERAP funds so that we can put them where they're needed most in negotiating these landlord-tenant cases.
If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Jim Kowalski, President and CEO of Jacksonville Area Legal Aid. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. We're discussing housing at the holidays. It's 549-2937. We'll go to your calls in a moment. Let us know your situation, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. So, Jim, how do the holidays impact demand for services?
So we see an increase in, I think, threat level, right? Folks are sometimes stretched with putting money multiple different places during the holidays. It's a bad time generally to move because staff is short at places you may be looking at. Folks are simply not there. And fortunately, and I think this is probably true throughout the state, the rest of the legal structure, right, the courthouse, the sheriff's office, all tend to do what they can to help folks get through the holidays. There's a general slowdown in writs being issued, that sort of thing, and I would imagine that's probably true throughout the state.
How does Jax rank in terms of affordable housing options, Jim, and how has that changed in the last year or so?
We're horrible. Florida generally is very low. There are parts of Florida where more than 50% of the area are what are called extremely debt burdened, rent burdened. These are people who are paying more than a third of their income in rent. If they're extremely debt burdened, they're paying more than 50% of their household income in rent. We know with the number of our subsidized housing complexes that have been in the news lately, there's a reason why folks stay at Hilltop, they stay at Eastside, they stay in these places because there are no alternatives. It's not as though we could simply close them all down and give folks vouchers through the housing authority. There's no place for them to go. And so we've seen these massive changes in affordability, right? Rent has increased throughout the state, has increased locally. And all that does is push the folks that we need for our economy, right? We need folks to work at the Marriott. We need folks to work at our restaurants. We need folks to work at our service stations to keep our tourism economy rolling along. It puts more stress on those people that are at the center of Florida's economic engine. And we've asked in Tallahassee for the legislature not to raise the Affordable Housing Fund. They keep rating it to balance the budget each year. This would have been an opportunity to take some of the federal money, put it into affordable housing. That is not being done in a structured way. And so you're imbalancing the economy that we happen to have.
You know, Duval County has seen thousands of eviction orders since the U.S. Supreme Court struck down an eviction moratorium in August that was put in place to keep people in their homes at the height of the pandemic. And so people might not realize that, Jim, that people are being evicted every day, that moratorium is no more, right?
There's no help. I mean, in Florida, like I mentioned, it's the most one-sided, harsh statute in the country. The tenant, once they receive notice of the eviction filing, they have 5 days to do two things. And the first is to file a written response with the court. They can do that at FloridaEvictionHelp.org, which is the form builder that we build. And the second thing is to deposit the claimed back rent into the clerk's office. So you can see, you know, this is extremely harsh, but a landlord could beat up the tenant, put her in the hospital where she couldn't work and pay the rent, and then sue her for eviction when she didn't pay the rent, and then evict her if she couldn't deposit 100% of the claimed rent within 5 days. It's extremely short turnaround. And you can see where a case could process through the court system in well under a month from filing to the writ that the sheriff serves where the tenant is forced to leave. It's the most one-sided, especially that 5-day requirement to post the back rent, 100% of the claimed back rent, or file a motion to determine the rent and deposit what you agree you owe. It's the most one-sided statute in the country.
Wow. So with all of this said, how can people who are at risk get access to the help and the funds they need? What's the easiest first step they should be taking right now?
Well, they should be applying to ourflorida.com. It's an online application.
Ourflorida.com. Okay.
Ourflorida.com is the state ERAP site. That's what's been in the news lately with DCF spending that $660 million that the Treasury Department is maybe asking, hopefully not to claw back, but to redistribute to the local counties like the Duval program. Or they can go to their local county. In Florida, in Jacksonville, the local ERAP program is accessed through COJ.net. It's an online platform that's run by a company called Civitas. They're doing a good job of getting the applications in, contacting and working with the landlords, and then getting the money out to the landlords to make up that back rent. Each county will have its own ERAP program. Clay, St. John, Nassau, all run through county offices and all doing a very good job.
Ourflorida.com. You can also always contact Jacksonville Area Legal Aid for assistance. And, you know, Jim, I really appreciate you coming on because this is something that has kind of gone under the radar. People seem to think that we're through the worst of things, and we're really not. I mean, there are still a lot of people struggling out there.
The thing that continues to bother us is, and I'm on the housing intake schedule, so I'll be speaking to folks every week on their landlord-tenant cases, and they just don't know that these programs exist, and they don't know how to access them. We had folks that didn't know when the moratoriums existed, or they still believe they exist, to your point from earlier, that they still may think, oh, I'm protected. I've read about something in social media. And it's not true. You've got to be proactive. You've got to get to one of these application sites or reach out for help, stay ahead of the issue, and so that we can be smart about spending the ERAP money and get rid of the arrearages at the same time the economy is recovering, right? If we could hit that sweet spot sometime in 2022 where folks are back to work, paying their rent, making their landlords whole, and they've caught up their arrearages through the ERAP programs, that's exactly what this system is designed to do. It's what this program is designed to do.
Robbie writes on Facebook, it's great that help is available for those suffering reduced income due to COVID, but when will the thousands of those whose housing is at risk when will they get help because of increases in rent? HUD is not a real option in places where accepting housing assistance is viewed as only needed by the lazy. There are scant few places in our area where average folks, the help, can find a place to live. And he's absolutely right about that, Jim. The rent is just not affordable for most people anymore, people that are working every day.
Well, and there is one point. I mean, it is a mistake to think that folks in federally subsidized housing are not employed. The majority are either employed, disabled, or seniors. So I'm not sure where that thought process comes from, but they're not unemployed, not disabled, not seniors. The vast majority are in that one of those three categories. But yes, affordable housing for the working employed, lower income, middle class, that's really hitting a crisis in Florida as a whole with the lack of affordable housing, like I mentioned, to support the economy that we happen to have.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, you're helping low-income tenants at risk of eviction. There are certain criteria people need to meet to get this assistance. So I do encourage people to get in touch with legal aid or start at ourflorida.com. Jim Kowalski, President, CEO, Jax Area Legal Aid, have a great holiday, and thanks for all the great work you do.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
And much more still ahead later. Calls to fire Urban Meyer grow much louder as the Jags lose yet again. That's coming up later, but up next.
Fraudsters are getting smarter, more creative, and even more convincing. So relying on typical protections offered by any financial institution is a good basic approach to fraud prevention.
How you can protect yourself from new scams emerging from fraudsters this holiday season. We'll be right back.
The Jacksonville Music Experience from WJCT Public Media is your ticket to the local scene. Music reviews, curated playlists, music history, concert recommendations, profiles of local artists, and more. Turn your ear on the beautiful noise emerging from Northeast Florida and learn more about the local artist whose music is reverberating across the country. Visit jaxmusic.org to play it local and play it loud.
Welcome back. Well, new scams are popping up just in time for holiday shopping. Community First Credit Union is working to help its members and everyone in this community to look out for scams that could affect you when you're out buying gifts. How do you protect yourself? Well, I spoke with the head of their fraud team, Lindsay Burchett. Here's that conversation.
Hey, Lindsay, good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation, Melissa. I'm very excited about this opportunity to get some good information out to your listeners.
That's right. Now, you are the director of fraud prevention at Community First Credit Union. Now's the time when we really need to be on our guard and protect ourselves. So give us tips from the fraud team over where you are about how we can keep our information safe as we're shopping.
Absolutely. So fraudsters are getting smarter, more creative, and even more convincing. So relying on typical protections offered by any financial institution is a good basic approach to fraud prevention. But we would like to educate the consumer, arm them with ways and steps to avoid the holiday season with some simple steps about observation, changing some small practices, slowing down before engaging in an impulse buy. All of these things can help keep them safe this holiday season.
Now, we obviously know to report a lost or stolen card right away, but you say we should go beyond that and consider Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. A lot of people have the ability to do that on their phones. They just haven't done it. I'm one of them. Convince me, why should I go to Apple Pay?
So there are some added amenities that are very unique to these digital forms of payment. For starters, your card won't have to be on you in order for you to use them. So it reduces your chances of skimming incidents where your card is copied by a fraudster through a common point of sale. It reduces the chances of other people walking away with your card and taking it out of sight, which can be another point of vulnerability. It also allows for the security of the information that is transmitted. So when you use these type of digital forms of payment, it is only taking an imprint and providing it with a chip confirmation code instead of relaying all of your personal data pertaining to your credit card information. So even if that information were to be intercepted in some way, the fraudsters are only getting an encrypted piece of the message instead of all of your identifying information that is found on your card, such as the full card number, the CVV code, or the date of expiration.
Okay, interesting. What else do you recommend? What's new in the fraud protection world that you want all of us to know about?
So one of the first warnings that came out so far this season is that the United States Postal Service is going to be changing their delivery practices. They've already warned the consumer base that deliveries are going to be a bit slower and may take some additional days for deliveries to be made. This is an excellent opportunity for the fraudsters to be jumping in and offering quick and expedient services for an added cost of $19.99. They'll really be targeting our consumers to make sure the packages arrive in time for the holiday season by trying to convince them that they can guarantee delivery. And one of two things can happen from it. Either they give up their hard-earned money for services that are no better than what was originally intended, or two, they could accidentally give up their payment information to someone who intends to use it for unauthorized transactions. To make sure that this is not what we fall victim to, we need to slow down this holiday season and think through the process. Who are you dealing with? Who is really offering you this service? Try calling the company directly to see if this service is even offered by them. Verifying the offer and taking time to research it is really going to be a great place for us to reduce our exposure.
Interesting. Now, this is also something that is important to get out. Shop online only on secure sites. But how do you know if a site is secure?
So if you take a look at your web browser, there is a small lock or a picture of a lock that is up next to your IP address, your URL address. When the lock is in the closed position, you are on a secure website. If the lock is open, you are on an unsecured website. This is your first indicator that you are on a secured or not secured website. Additional things you can look for when you go to check out are grammar errors or spelling errors. These are oftentimes put up hastily because they're detected quickly and taken down often. So not a lot of time and effort is put into spell checking some of the information you may see on there. So just review everything and make sure you're comfortable with what they're asking you for and it's typical information they're asking you to provide. Everyone knows that when you purchase, you have to type in your card number, enter the expiration date, and enter a CVV, perhaps even maybe a billing zip code. But if they're asking additional questions like, what is your mother's maiden name? What address, street address, do we need to use for billing? These are extra questions that are not typically asked. So again, this is a good time for us to slow down, do some additional research, and make sure we're comfortable with the questions they're asking us.
Mm-hmm. And just be wary of online scams and even clicking on email attachments that might expose you, all the things that we've gotten so much more cautious about. Any other tips for us?
Yes. If you have an opportunity to be out shopping in person, be aware of your surroundings. Where do you keep your wallet? Is it in your back pocket or is it in your purse? How close is your wallet to the outside of your purse if you do keep it there? How many cards are you carrying with you? Do you really need to take all of them, or is this a specific account reserved just for your holiday shopping, and that's really the only card that needs to go with you? Being aware of your surroundings, how close people are standing to you. Now's a good time for social distancing. So having someone that's less than 2 feet from you is an acceptable range for your cards to be read with an RFID reader. Having these instruments close to your cards can scan them from a distance of 24 inches. So noticing if someone is standing uncomfortably close to you can make sure that you're moving a little further away, just out of social distancing practices, and also keep your information safe in your wallet or in your purse.
Great advice. Thank you so much. We'll bear it in mind. Lindsay Burchett, she heads up the fraud team at Community First Credit Union. Happy shopping, everyone. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Well, it surprised no one that the Jaguars lost yet again yesterday, this time a shutout to the Titans. But here's the thing coming out of this game. The fans are in an uproar with reports about dissension inside the locker room over their coach's leadership. The bottom line, folks, calls to fire Urban Meyer are at a fever pitch. Josh Torres has his take on that, and he joins us now with some sports news and notes. Hey, Josh.
Hey there, Melissa.
Thanks for being with us. And listen, folks, we want to hear from you. We don't normally take calls about sports, but let's do it today. Do you think Jags coach Urban Meyer should be fired or not? Give us a call, 549-2937. So, Josh, you're going to kind of do a little George Carlin impression before you give some scores. You're ready to rant. I think it's time for you to rant, right?
I can't even describe. I mean, that's just it. Is this season has gotten to the point where that's what basically every sports reporter is doing now. Like half of the time, all the local sports reporters, all we can do is rant about just how much dysfunction is in this team right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's quickly just go over the game. Yesterday, they played the Tennessee Titans, division rival, chance to really show, hey, we're down, but we're not quite out. And they didn't do that. I mean, the regression that has been seen in this team is just unprecedented. I mean, at least the joke for last year was at least we were hopeful. Hey, you know what? At least we're going to get the number one pick. And that was the thing to look forward to. And right now, there isn't anything to look forward to. There's so much dysfunction in the team. Yesterday during the game, receivers Laviska Shenault and Treadwell ran into each other during a play. I mean, it is insane just how much dysfunction is in this team right now. Score ended up being a 20-0 shutout to the Titans. The first time since 2009 that the Jags have been shut out in a game. To put that into context for people, I was a freshman in high school the last time the Jags got shut out in a game. It's been over 3 years.
2009 was the year this show launched. You know who our very first guest was? Day one?
Who was it?
Wayne Weaver.
And see, and that's just it, is we've gone through all the Jack Del Rio days, the Blake Bortles days, the Blaine Gabbert days, and none of them were shut out. And this is the first time since then that they've been shut out. They have the #1 pick and they got shut out. And then the worst part, and everybody hears the rant. This is the moment you've been waiting for. On Saturday, before this game, NFL.com released an article using sources from within the Jags organization that absolutely, when I say this is crazy, all the stuff they said about Urban Meyer, that apparently he got into a screaming match with receiver Marvin Jones Jr., who was seen as a leader in the locker room, who was seen as a very mild-mannered guy, someone who isn't known to get into it with people or anything like that. And he actually left the facility because he was so upset with the way that Urban Meyer was treating the receivers, and coaches had to actually beg him to come back. And then apparently Urban Meyer basically called all of his assistant coaches that he hired losers, and said, I'm a winner, you guys are all losers, and it supposedly made them defend their resumes to him. Like, that is
way to motivate the team, huh?
Not even just motivate the team. I can't imagine if our station manager, David Luckin, came in here and told me I need to defend myself about why I should be a sports analyst or the director of the show. I mean, I can't imagine how long that our CEO, David McGowan, would allow him to stay if he heard that. I mean, it's so crazy. And then the fact that now they get shut out 20-0, the first time since in 12 years that they've been shut out. It's unprecedented, Melissa.
Well, we're already getting calls. Let's get the temperature of the town on Urban Meyer. Should he go? 549-2937. Linda in Mandarin. Hi, Linda.
Hi. I just want to talk about the fact
Get off speaker, Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to talk about the fact that, I mean, let's be real. What was Urban Meyer's credentials to even freaking get the job? I mean, why weren't we going to translate? We had experienced people. We had experienced African Americans. We probably didn't get an interview because we had this fairyland of this guy who was great in college. We're not in college. These are grown men. Urban Meyer has shown from the beginning he should have been fired early in the season. He's brought nothing to this team except a lot of false narrative before he got hired, and he proved zero. It proves that, and to me, it's almost like Shad Khan thought the football team he was buying was the soccer team. This is football, not soccer.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah. Thanks, Linda. Okay, was he the best that Shad Khan could have found in America to coach this team?
No, I would definitely not say it was the best. I think it was definitely one of those things where they kind of saw it as the two-pronged sword where, okay, he was a winner in college, 3 national championships, definitely good to put on your resume. And plus, obviously, he had so many great years at the University of South Florida. Jacksonville has a huge, huge fan base for the Gators here. And they kind of saw it as, okay, big name, bring in some early ticket sales. We got Trevor Lawrence coming to the team. But I agree with her, and there are a lot of great coaches out there. Actually, one that Jags fans really want to see actually come here is current offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich played for the Jags from 2003 to I believe it was 2006, 2007. And even Bruce Arians, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he used to coach the Arizona Cardinals. He retired and said in his statement that the only reason he came out of retirement was, 1, because of the GM down in Tampa, and 2, because he knew he was going to get Byron Leftwich as a coach. And and to her point too, Byron Leftwich is also an African American coach. He's a fantastic coach. And even Bruce Arians has said he cannot believe that he has not been sought out for a head coaching job. And that is the name that keeps getting thrown around by Jags fans. So Jags fans are making it clear who at least one of their favorite picks
who they
for
would have
is.
liked. Tom on the West Side. Hi, Tom.
Good morning. And my thought on this is the biggest failure that Urban Meyer has going as a coach is there's absolutely no progression going on with Trevor Lawrence in his development as a quarterback. I mean, there is nothing more valuable in the NFL than a number one overall pick. And so far, it looks like that's being squandered. So I think for that reason alone, we ought to look for someone who can develop Lawrence, some sort of quarterback whisperer or something.
Yeah.
So we can get the value out of our number one overall pick that we invested so heavily in.
Yeah, and that people were so excited about. Thanks for that, Tom. Eric in Arlington. Hi, Eric.
Good morning. This is an example of white privilege run amok. I mean, you look at this guy, Urban Meyer, and you say to yourself, how did this, when you look at him really closely, his behavior, he's a liar. He's a pathological liar. He's a manipulator. And he seems to be incompetent and doesn't even really work that hard. He has he can't read a room, obviously, because of the things that, like what went on in Cincinnati earlier this season. And somehow this person who cannot do this job, he's not qualified in any way. I'm not even sure he's mentally competent, to be honest with you, given his behavior, is making tens of millions of dollars out there. And it's because basically he's white, he's ultra white. I mean, you look at Urban Meyer, I think he's a Mormon. I'm not sure, not that casting aspersions on Mormons or anything, but what's more white than Mormons? I mean, this guy is ultra white. He's a terrible failure. So you have to ask yourself,
let's leave his religion out of it. But Eric, I hear your point, and I appreciate the call. Okay, Josh, is Urban Meyer the poster boy for white male privilege in this moment in time?
At least, honestly, I have to agree. I mean, but I made a joke to some friends of mine that for Christmas, I want to get his lawyer or whoever negotiate his contract, because the thing that everybody feels is the reason he has not been fired is because of whatever is in his contract. There has to be something in there that is causing Shad Khan to have to keep him. Other than that,
it might cost too much to buy him out.
Yeah, and I can't imagine
maybe he's
why.
just cheap.
Yeah,
some people have said.
That is one thing I have heard quite a few times, is he's just cheap. Maybe he just doesn't want to pay him the money in hopes that something comes up where he can finally just axe him after the season. But right now, there are so many coaches out there, African-American coaches, who would be great and who are probably seething at the opportunity to try and come here and get the coach someone who many people consider a generational prospect in Trevor Lawrence, and we're stuck with Urban Meyer right now.
Yeah. There is no love for this man. Here's a tweet from Lee. No need to fire him. He'll find an excuse to resign. His ego and pride won't let him finish the season. He's no different than Nick Saban or Steve Spurrier. The NFL game is far different from college. Isn't that the truth? Okay, Josh. So let's move on. As hot a topic as this is around town, a lot of sports happened over the weekend. What else did you catch up on?
Oh my goodness, yes. There's so much going on. We got college basketball going. UNF's men's basketball team, they split 2 of their games last week. They lost to number 20 ranked Florida, but they got a much needed win at home over Austin Peay, 91-84. We had JU's men's basketball. They split both of their games with a loss to Georgia, but they picked up a win over UNC Wilmington. JU's women's team, they're off to a hot start. I gotta say, they're off to a great start to their season. They picked up 2 wins last week. They're currently sitting at 7-2 on the season. UNF women's team also split both of their games. They actually got a good win over Bethune-Cookman yesterday, game that I actually attended and got to do a little live tweeting from. Let's go with FSU. Their football season over, but there's another time of football that they were playing last week. Their women's soccer team was actually playing against BYU for a national championship.
Nice.
And the game went all the way to penalty kicks, and the Seminoles came out on top thanks to a penalty kick goal by Yuji Zhao. And it gave the Seminoles their 3rd national championship in women's soccer. So congratulations to them. If Jacksonville sports fans, you want to go see a winning team,
Yeah, we do have one.
Go see the Jacksonville Icemen. Our hockey team is off to a fantastic start. They are winners of 10 of their last 12 games. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and they are only 1 point out of first place in their division. We also had another winner here, Trinity Christian. They just won their 9th state football championship on Thursday, a 41-23 win in the Class 2A championship. And Melissa, my favorite part, you always joke about how much of a Formula One fan I am.
We all know.
I told producer Heather Schatz I was going to talk about this, and actually, I found out we have a lot of Formula One fans here in Jacksonville. I was actually very surprised yesterday about how many people I saw talking about it that live here in Jacksonville. Yesterday, we had the thing that every sports fan loves, a title-deciding race. Both drivers, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, young Dutchman Max Verstappen coming into the final race, tied on points. Race was going all in Lewis Hamilton's favor until the last lap. A late safety car made it a 1-lap shootout for the win. Max Verstappen, my favorite driver. Sorry, I'm going to be biased for a second. My favorite driver made a move up the inside going into turn number 5 and is the 2021 Formula One World Championship champion. Congratulations to Mr. Max Verstappen on a great, great season. And this was honestly one of the best seasons of Formula One I have ever witnessed.
Fantastic. And you can follow Josh on Twitter and get his musings on sports and other stuff at Josh is a Polar Bear. Always good to get your sports analysis, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
And still to come, how you can dash through downtown this week in a holiday scavenger hunt. That's after this.
Lee & Kate's Glass, family owned and operated for 95 years. Lee & Kate's Glass is your source for upgrading your home's glass, from shower doors and mirrors to windows and tabletops. Learn more at leeandkatesglass.com. Congaree & Pin Landscape Trees, now specializing in landscape and architectural lighting. More info and appointments available at congareetrees.com or 527-1945.
Cheyenne Kippenberger is former Miss Seminole and Miss Indian World. I'm Ben Brotmarkle, and also coming up on Florida Frontiers, the weekly radio magazine of the Florida Historical Society, we'll discuss the Florida Negro Farm Cooperative Extension Service and the exoneration of the Groveland Four after 7 decades. That's Florida Frontiers, Monday evening at 6:30 on WJCT News 89.9.
I'm Scott Tong. The Taliban issued a special decree on women's rights. So, how are Afghan women reacting?
It might make the international community, the Americans, happy that yes, the Taliban are pro-women, but for us who live under this situation, we literally laugh at it.
One Afghan activist says a Taliban crackdown on newly enlightened women could lead to all-out war. Next time on Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
A huge bill with a hefty price tag is currently sailing through Capitol Hill. No, it's not Build Back Better. It's the defense budget, which clocks in at more than $768 billion. It's the largest military spending bill the U.S. has seen since World War II. So where's that money going? We'll find out next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, finally, this hour, Dashing Through Downtown, a 5-day scavenger hunt designed to encourage support of local businesses and enjoy downtown at the holidays, is kicking off tomorrow. Haley Wright Tinkle is events manager at Downtown Vision Inc., and she's on the line to tell us how we can have some fun with this. Haley, good morning.
Good morning. It's so great to be here.
Good to be with you. Now, this is a QR code scavenger hunt. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. So you download an app called EventZ on your phone, and there are posters hung in over 30 businesses and all around downtown. And you scan the QR code on your phone through the app, and once you have visited 10 locations, you'll receive a $20 DT Jax e-gift card to spend at all of the different businesses that you've visited.
Nice. That's EventZ app. That's spelled EVENTZEE. Download that app, and you can start dashing through downtown tomorrow. So what are some of the businesses that are being highlighted and places we can shop?
Absolutely. It actually started today, which is really exciting. So you can visit Wolf and
You are
Cub
absolutely right. It started today. In the long tradition, that's actually only been a few weeks of us getting dates wrong because we're all so tired around here.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
We got the date wrong. Go
Time
ahead.
is made up.
Go
at this
ahead, though.
point, yes.
It kicks off today and ends Friday. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly. So you can visit places like Wolf and Cub, Chamblin's, Hemming Plaza Jewelers, Jacobs Jewelers, Honey's Plates, Superfood and Brew. You can visit all kinds of different places, and you can go to our website, dtjax.com/holidays, and you can see the full list of everyone that's participating.
Okay. Now, this is easy enough to do. It's free. You just have to have a valid email address and download this app. This is just a way for people who might not ordinarily come downtown to come downtown and explore shops and restaurants. That's part of your mission at Downtown Vision Inc., to get more people doing that?
Exactly. Our mission at Downtown Vision is to make downtown a more vibrant and beautiful place and encourage folks who wouldn't usually come down here to enjoy all of the wonderful things that are here. And so this is a really simple way to just explore all that downtown has to offer. And then not only are you exploring and seeing new places, but you get rewarded with a DT Jax e-gift card. And then in turn, you can use that gift card at over 30 different places and just further, experience more of downtown.
Yeah. These are places I like to hang out at. Superfood and Brew, Olio, The Brick Coffee House, Urban Grind, The Volstead, Wolf and Cub, Mag's Cafe, so many others. Happy Grilled Cheese, which is great. Chamblin's, the bookstore. Bellwether,
Yes.
another great restaurant. So many downtown hangouts that people really need to explore and learn about. And you can go to dtjax.com/holidays for more about dashing through downtown. Now, you know what? There's a Sip and Stroll Thursday downtown, too. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Absolutely. It's a super busy week, and it's really exciting. So Sip and Stroll is a concept that was originally introduced at our DT Jax Gala back in February, where we opened up the Riverwalk and had some food and live music and some bars set up on the Riverwalk to really enjoy one of Jacksonville's most beautiful amenities that a lot of folks don't even realize is there. And so we've started this event on the third Thursday of every month. And like I mentioned, we have live music, food, bars set up, and it's just a nice time to enjoy the beautiful sunset over our gorgeous skyline. And it's free for people to enjoy. Food and drink is not included in that experience, but, coming to listen to the music is free and, really just getting to enjoy our beautiful city. It's really exciting.
Yeah, check out the Sip and Stroll beginning at 5 o'clock Thursday on the South Bank. And check out Dashing Through Downtown going on all week. You just need to download the EventZ app and use the QR code function to dash through downtown, win prizes while you shop, and support local for the holidays. Check out the festive windowscapes along the way, too, at some of the downtown shops. Kind of fun. And so, Haley, I want to thank you. It sounds like a lot of fun, and we'll be taking part where we can at WJCT this week. Of course, we're sort of on the edge of downtown, but we're downtown. So
Yes,
we
definitely downtown.
Yeah, we like to support downtown whenever we can. So check out Dashing Through Downtown all week and Sip and Stroll Thursday on the South Bank. And thank you, Haley. Haley Wright-Tinkle, Events Manager at Downtown Vision, Inc. Again, go to dtjax.com/ and I lost the website.
Holidays.
Because it's one of those days. dtjax.com dtjax.com/ what's the
Holidays.
Holidays.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And then on Friday, we also have a Merry and Bright movie night happening on Riverfront Plaza. We've partnered with Live Oak Contracting to set up a giant movie screen, and we'll be showing The Santa Claus and Die Hard. And it's completely free for the public to join. We'll have a couple food trucks and some hot chocolate, and some bars from Manifest and Bold City as well. So once again, another fun holiday event that is free for the public, and on Riverfront Plaza on Friday night. And the first movie starts at 6.
Very nice. So much happening. Thanks so much, and have fun this week, Haley.
You're so welcome. Talk to you soon.
And thanks, everyone. That's our show. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Melissa Ross, and we'll be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great day.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health